Today I'm making a Daft Punk helmet, as requested by my highest pledging patrons, Dexter, Andrew, and Graham? There were multiple people who requested this. On Patreon, in regular comments. Over 10 years have I been doing this? And oh, hey, apparently I'm a man of my word. Who knew? Good on ya, Past Jake. Good on ya. First I gotta make a solid sculpture of the visor shape, which I'm going to do out of EVA foam, amongst other things, and that's going to be the buck onto which I'm going to form the visor. A lot of makers 3D print their visors, and if you're set up to do that, then by all means go for it. This is a suggestion, not a commandment, but if you don't have a 3D printer or you're just starting out, then vacuum forming is much less frustrating way to go, certainly less expensive way to go, because 3D printers are not quite the perfect Star Trek replicators that they're made out to be, or even the Jurassic Park printers. Oh yeah, way of the future. Great. So yeah, floor mat foam. I started with a knight helmet pattern that I pulled off in my head so it would fit me. I heat formed that with the heat gun to make it curved. Then I glued the pieces together with contact cement, which is a type of shoe glue that you should only use in a well-ventilated area with proper respirators. Once it aired out, I heat formed it again to even out the lumps. Then I cut away the old knight helmet shape until it was the shape that I wanted the visor rim to be. I'm actually using the back half of a knight helmet to be the front half of the Daft Punk helmet. Then I put in a base. That's to get it to hold the shape of its circumference. Then I filled in the seams with quick seal. When it dried, I sanded it flush. Then I cut holes in the base and filled it with Great Stuff expanding foam. This will strengthen it a little bit just so that it can stand up to the pressure being vacuum formed and won't collapse. Then I covered it in thin craft foam, honestly just to cover the holes. And that's it. Alright, here we go. This is where the fun begins. Game time has started. I got some 0.08 inch thick PETG plastic off the internet and peeled away the protective layer. That's very important. That'd be the most embarrassing mistake that a prop maker could make. I'm glued to my flamethrower. Okay, second most embarrassing mistake. Then I aligned it to my vacuum forming frame, cut off the excess carefully. That's not plugged in. Okay, third most embarrassing mistake. Then I attached it to the vacuum forming frame. Geez, what happened to my arm there? Oh man, I just looked right now. That's still there. What is that? Well, okay, let's just assume that there was a fourth most embarrassing mistake that I have yet to realize. Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. And that's how he died. Next, I placed the buck in the middle of the vacuum platform that I built in a previous video and attached a shop vac. I preheated the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit because I know some people are screaming right now. I think I should point out that this plastic does not emit fumes when heated. If it did, they wouldn't package food in it. However, if it does burn, the smoke is toxic. Because my heat gun burn still hasn't healed, I took the precaution of filling the sink with ice water. When the oven got up to temperature, I popped in the vacuum frame. It took probably roughly 2.5 minutes. Basically, you know when it's ready when the middle starts to droop. Then I quickly turned on the shop vac, pulled it out, and pressed it onto the buck. Oh my god, this worked so well! Still a little warm. Oh! Look at that! Look at that! I'm a goldfish! Then I removed the plastic from the frame. I had so much trouble with that one screw. As it turned out, it was one of those weird square ones that they use on Canadian movie sets. I had to get out my old movie building drill bits. This put together a Klingon spaceship on Star Trek. I have no way of proving that without showing my work papers, but it also worked on a Saw movie if anyone stayed to the end of the Jigsaw credits. Yeah. Yeah, right there, front and center. Running on caffeine and ibuprofen. Jake Castno, starving carpenter. Get it? I was a carpenter on a Saw movie. God, kill me now. Then I trimmed away the excess plastic using my tin snips and a rotary disc. I left a little handhold at the end for when I dye it later. Then I sanded away the rough edge, protecting the dome with painter's tape. Lastly, I made a bucket of death soup, which consists of fabric dye, Prometheus goo, and whatever's left of my faith in humanity. The base was about 3 gallons of water, heated to 150 degrees. I held it in for 5 minutes at a time, cooling it in a chilling bucket in between sessions to prevent the plastic from warping. I did 4 dunks, so 20 minutes total. This bucket was not quite deep enough, so I had to fill it nearly to the brim with hot water from a teapot. I only got away with that because I think the 1 packet of dye I used was really meant for 5 gallons of water, and I've got 3 here, so, you know. I want to point out that this was harder than it needed to be. With a visor this shape and a bucket this narrow, the excess plastic handle that I'm holding onto should be on the opposite side of the dome and bent in an L shape, because towards the end of each heating session, it was starting to become malleable again. Ideally, you would want to have a wider basin and 2 handholds on either end, but working on a budget, I have to use what I have on hand and sort of work on the fly. supply, hence the 100-year-old farm equipment. I almost did this with a pitchfork. So that's the lesson I'm trying to remember for the next time I do this, because oh my god, this works so well. Oh, real quick, because this is dye, it will stain. So make an effort not to spill any, otherwise you're gonna lose your security deposit. And if you do, this cleaner works. While the visor's drying, I'm gonna work on the frame. I made it out of EVA foam puzzle piece offcuts, the strips with the puzzle pieces cut off, and then filled it with random scrap foam floor mat pieces to create the shapes of the side of the helmet. This is a very weird way of building a helmet. I know. I'm not sure why I did this. I think it was breathing all the fumes from the plastic dye. Probably messed me up a bit. I don't know. I sanded the pieces on my belt sander and then heat formed them with my heat gun. I temporarily attached them with masking tape just so that I could figure out the earpieces. Once I had that shape, I cut them out at an angle. Those obviously had to be sanded. The sharper your knife, the less you'll have to deal with this. But, you know, after a while, those blades have to be replaced. Then I cut a circuit pattern with a razor pen and heat formed the ears, sure, both to direct the curvature of the sides of the helmet and to open up the circuit pattern. Then I contact cemented all of the parts together. Lastly, I made the heartbeat ear detail, and then I attached them. It's looking so good! But there are still a few imperfections, so before I can paint it, I trimmed the frame, filled in the seams with quick seal, and when that dried, I sanded it. You may need to do multiple layers. Like, this is a proof of concept. I'm gonna do more that have fewer seams, but if you have the time to make one that's, well, seamless, you're probably gonna be doing several layers of filling and sanding. Just letting you know. When it did finally dry, I sanded it some more. It never ends with the sanding. I drilled holes for lights to be threaded through. You gotta be really careful with this because, you know, you just tear up the foam. In fact, I punched barbecue skewers into this just to be a guide for the drill bit. You have to do this prior to plasti dipping, otherwise it could rip up the plasti dip coating. In order to get the edges of the helmet to conform around the visor, I put cut up coat hangers, bent at the proper angle inside the foam just to straighten it out. Then I coated it in several layers of plasti dip. I just want to point something out really quick. These could go for more filling and sanding, but it's just like, again, 17 hours is different than 17 months. So areas where gravity pulled the plasti dip together, or where maybe it got hit with 6 coats as opposed to the overall 3, it's coming out a bit shinier, which is really what you want. And in fact, if I'd thought of it at the time, I would have used the black acrylic house paint that I used on the Alien. But I'm trying to get this thing done in 3 days, and that's like half the time that you should spend on the paint job. So feel free to use that whole can of plasti dip or use a different painting method. I know I'm gonna build several of these helmets because I have a couple of different styles that I want to do, and I'm sure after I've done like 3, I'll get that paint job right. Though I kind of just want to do like an all black one. Then I painted it gold. While the gold paint dried, I built the robot hair piece. I used electroluminescent wire because I need it for the ear detail, and I have way more than I need. That's like a total of maybe 3 inches for those ear pieces, and I think there's 3 feet of this, at least. Oh, 9 feet. I secured the visor and threaded the L wire, as well as adding LEDs where I saw fit. If you want that, you know, non-transparent from the outside look, you want to hide the light from hitting your subject's face. I'll also put in a voice changer, because why not? And that's it. Now you're ready to rock.